Welcome to the Voice of Reason show. I'm the host, John Martin, and my usual guests are with me, Rob Konish, Dr. Garbinian. We got those titles out. We're going to start with Dr. Garbinian on a survey of the use of the old property where the Bill School is now located.
Thank you, John. Happy New Year to you both, you gentlemen. And going back before the New Year came, and back on December 18th, the committee that is investigating the reuse of the Beale School property, I had a meeting and I went to it, and one of the things that they had discussed was that they had a survey they conducted for the citizens of Shrewsbury to fill out. And I believe there were actually two surveys. I think that's what they talked about. There was one that consisted of 8 questions, and I think there was a second one that gave you 5 different proposed plans of different ways that they're going to reconfigure the site, and they wanted people to react to that. And both surveys, the way they were worded, I thought was very nicely done. I thought the questions were very clear. The choices that people had to make were logical, and that one, I liked that very much. The only thing that bothered me was that I don't know if people of the town knew about this survey and to take the survey. And to my understanding, these 2 surveys were both available online. I believe one of them was available in paper either at the town hall and or at the library. The question is, are these surveys that they've conducted, are they random? And the answer is no. And when you don't have a survey that's random, then whatever information you garner from that survey, whatever conclusions that you may reach because of that survey, are going to be rather invalid. What I would have liked to have seen is a more random way of doing it. Now, what they could have done is several things come to my mind, and I'll just take time to explain 2 of them. They could have taken all the residents of Shrewsbury, let's say people that were registered to vote. I think that there's enough of them to get a random sample out of that population, and say select every randomly, just go down the list and select every, let's say, 5th person or 6th person or 13th person. Enough people so that you would have a decent sized sample. Go to those people and say, would you take this survey? That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it would be to assign random numbers to all of these people, and you can have a random number generator out of a computer, select the numbers that you're going to do. Another way would be to take we have what, 8 precincts in town, John? How many precincts do we have? Is it 10? I really don't know.
I think we're 10 at least.
All right, we have 10 precincts in town. So already you have your population that's subdivided into groups. Find what percentage of the population exists in each precinct and randomly select a certain percentage of those people randomly in that way and ask them.
Because I see where you're going with this, because the problem is the people that are doing the surveys are really the ones either living close by, or they're affected by it, or they have skin in the game, that they want to see what's going on, so that you're going to get a sampling here of really only interested parties, opposed to, the people later on from all the different districts in town that are going to come and visit, but they really didn't have much input into it.
And the other one, thing is, in terms of the ones that would physically fill it out, we're only going with those people that would have gone into the town hall or have gone into the library. That is not random.
Is it online too? I probably.
And yeah, and I think it was also online too. Yeah. But how many people were that was online? So it has to be for somebody that's always going at the town website and looking for different things to do.
Well, if you're on probably the listservs of some of the planning board or the different boards have listservs, so you can sign up for those distribution emails, so you're getting
Right.
the information from them, zoning board.
Right, but how many people are signed up? So, but if you want a random sample of the town, then you have to reach out to random people in that town.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just are not connected with what's going on in the town.
Yeah.
So when you don't do that, then whatever sample you get is, I'm gonna have to use the word prejudice. You have an imbalance there. And you're not talking to the people that you wanna talk to. A classic example of that I think everybody learns, or at least I learned when I was going to school, was the presidential election of 1936 between Alfred Landon and Franklin Roosevelt. Before the election, it was predicted that Landon would win. And some people had done a survey, supposedly a random survey, and it showed overwhelmingly that Landon would win. But the problem was this: they only surveyed people who had telephone numbers.
Yeah.
So in 1936, how many people had telephone numbers? The people that had money, the more wealthy people, people that belonged to organizations. And I remember learning about this, and they picked out organizations such as business clubs, golf clubs, different society clubs. So you were just appealing to a certain top strata, economic strata of your population. So from there, most of those people were going for Al Landon. So from there, they said Al Landon's going to win. Well, obviously that didn't happen. And I also believe the same thing happened back in, it was at 1948 when Governor Dewey of New York ran against Harry Truman. And there was some newspapers published papers saying that Dewey wins. And I remember seeing a picture of Harry Truman with a big smile on his face holding this newspaper saying that Dewey wins. And that was after Dewey lost. So we've got to be careful as to how we do things and then extract conclusions from what we do. And that is my message. It's a good survey. I like the way it's worded. It's succinct. It's not cumbersome in terms of its length. You read it, it's not going to bore you. It's very much a fact. But how they go about the sampling, I think we got a problem. So I hope that they don't produce any type of conclusions. They can say that they did a sample, but don't make any kind of hard, try to make invalid conclusions, because I don't think they would be valid. That's what I would want to say to you.
Now, if I was in charge, they used to follow an old rule of asking the school department if they could use the old building for another school purpose. But of course, their lights are off at the school department when it comes to improving the school system. Currently, preschool has a small population of only special education children in the program. And I've been talking to a retired school teacher from Worcester, and they've been doing preschool for every child, free of charge, for decades, even before she was taught the first time, and now she's retired. And so I think their model over there helps prepare the younger children for the kindergarten, it's the next grade, and that seems to be our weak spot. If you watch any presentations on the school committee, they have the number grades instead of letters, I guess, or is it vice versa? No, now it's letters. Anyway, it was higher than it was now. It went down to 4, I think. Anyway, the bottom line is, we know that the elementary schools are weak because they test them every few years, and they know they're weak. And so I'm saying we need to start earlier for preparation of the young children. One of the things that happened in my experience with my son is that you couldn't get into preschool except by lottery. The special education program, if the classes weren't full, they would have a drawing to fill the classes up for if you volunteer to pay the fee, the half-day fee. And so they don't follow the rules very well. I was trying to get him into kindergarten. He was old enough, but he was not a very good student. Didn't learn very much in Russia. And so the principal told me they didn't want him on it was the next day they were going to bus kids to school. And she says, I don't want him on the bus. And I said, well, I need to talk to my wife. She's working. I was the only one that went to the meeting. And they took a moment and said, we will offer you preschool for your child. In other words, I was the winner of the lottery. I had to pay the fee, but I had not arrived in town early enough to be in the drawing. It was like in February. We got there in August. So they didn't follow the rules. But they had an empty seat somewhere because he went to preschool 2 weeks later.
But you have to drive him every day.
I had to drive him.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there are penalties.
So that's how they rationalize it. Let's keep this kid off the bus, but we'll let him, if he can get to school, we'll let him in.
No. It was don't arrive, which he didn't. We waited. He went to a different building. I was trying to get into kindergarten, which at that time was Bill's school. He went up going to preschool, which was behind the post office, which still is, by
It's
the way.
still there. It's still being used.
And now they have an extension preschool at Parker Road here. In the back, they have classes for preschool. And they're using the old classrooms in the elementary school that survived the fire. So they have different places they're running preschool. But they're only running it a certain way, which is special education first, and if they need more seats filled, because they want like 15 in the class, then they'll have a lottery. So what I'm saying is, I think to improve the educational model better, to even match what they did or get closer to what they did in Worcester, was to have all the students go to preschool. And so that's my story.
Just on a related note, I need to look into this a little further. Maybe one of you gentlemen might know the answer. If a child goes to Assabet, which is our technical high school, right?
Excuse me.
Over in is it Marlboro or Northborough?
Marlboro.
Marlboro.
Excuse me.
Do they have to pay the bus fee? Or is it only people from Shrewsbury that are going to Shrewsbury schools that have to pay the bus fee? Because if
Part of the tuition.
it's part of the tuition, which basically the town pays.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying that if kids decide and opt to go to Assabet, which is much further, they don't have to pay that $400 bus fee.
There's no charge.
Wouldn't that encourage more people to go to that
It has in the past.
school? And the town's amount that they have to pay towards Assabet is much higher than they do towards Shrewsbury High School?
Well, Shrewsbury High School's free.
Wow.
I was, the basic education's free.
Right, but it still costs the town about $14,000 per student to
me.
educate that person, that student.
Yeah, but they have to play sports,
So there's going to be
after-school activities.
that's a fee involved with Shrewsbury, but
Yeah.
maybe in Assabet there's no fees involved.
Well, they don't stay after school because they got to get on the bus.
They got to get home. There's no late bus, right?
But I've already made a statement on this show in the recent past that we should have a vocational school in Shrewsbury, so that currently there are hundreds, not just a few, but hundreds of students that want to be in vocational school that can't find a place to go.
Because they limit the amount that they take out of Shrewsbury
Right.
and all the other towns
Right.
that feed that.
Right.
that
We used
school.
to go.
There's a quota.
Used to go to Worcester, and now they made that technical school totally just Worcester children. We got a quota, like they have to fill up the seats. We're passing about 100 students to
Aspen.
Aspen. But the last time I listened to a meeting, there were 100 more that wanted to go, but they couldn't get a seat. So over 4 years, that's like 400 more.
Yeah.
And there's already 400 in the vocational school. So we could make a vocational school in Shrewsbury and have 800 at least. Plus we could partner with other towns that don't have their own and set up a fee for the fees to come in and make sure all those seats are full. But they don't think that way in the school committee. They look at that budget and say, we're spending over $1 million to send these kids to vocational school. What can we do about that? So one thing they did one year when they had the school in Marlboro that was good in foreign languages and science, and so they
AMSA.
yeah, they contacted the parents of why they sent their kids there. It was the courses, like in science, were better or didn't exist in Shrewsbury. They added those courses in Shrewsbury, and then the population going to that school went way down. So there was competition that didn't want to pay the fees. They improved the school system, which was a good thing actually, but we still don't have all the vocational training that the kids want. I mean, I don't know, I think there was like 14 different programs that they could get into, and Shrewsbury students are sprinkled in all of them. You know, 2 or 3 here, 2 or 3 there, and so we would have to get a program that the kids are interested in, and then model it so that it can fill the classrooms up.
Yeah. It sounds like a big cost. I mean, you're gonna need another school. You need all kinds of staff, and when you're talking about a school like that, you got to bring in shop classes and all these other courses, and plus the regular
You're right.
the regular English and math and science.
I can remember, maybe it was 10 years ago, where they had an automotive shop at Shrewsbury High School. I can remember when they closed that. And I guess, as I remember, it was because they didn't have enough money. They had to put more money in other areas.
Got down to one teacher for the shop.
Right. And they had students there pleading. I remember the meeting with the school committee. They had students there pleading not to do this because
Yep.
this was their interest. And I think part of it goes to the fact that in our culture today, everybody is set on sending their child to college. And I don't think they're realizing that everybody is not suited to go to college. It's like not everybody is suited to run the marathon, and everybody is suited to be an NBA basketball player, and not everybody is suited to become a classical pianist. We all have different strengths, interests, so forth. So I wish that the thinking of parents, as well as the other people in the community and our government school committee, the thinking would change and say that we don't have to brag that 93% of Shrewsbury High School graduates go to college. That they seem to, our school towns, school departments seem to wear that as a badge of honor on their lapel, and that if the number is lower than that, then you're not a good school system.
But the thing that fights that is a lot of students never graduate.
Yeah.
They quit before their senior
Understandably.
year because they're not interested in academics.
That's right.
And so they just get a job and forget it. And that would be a change to the graduation rate if we had something in-house that would interest them.
And what you could do, again, I think with vocational education, you teach them the academics that's necessary for that particular vocation, whatever it be. And you can hopefully, for instance, you can tailor mathematics. So it'd be mathematics for somebody that's going to be working on automobiles, or mathematics if you're going to become an electrician, or mathematics to be a plumber. So hopefully they would get some interest there, and even if they're not strong in math, they would hopefully have enough motivation to be able to learn that math and master it so they can do their job properly.
Well, what they did in Aspen is they improved the required courses for graduation so that they could go to college right out of Aspen. They'll have all the courses that they need because they don't need that many, really don't. You know, take your English and some math, but the point is, they weren't always that way. They were specializing just to get them enough information so that they get a job. And they still have some of that going on. For instance, you talked about automobile mechanics. They have a sponsor at Asbeth, some dealership, that's providing the technical equipment knowledge in order what to buy, and the teachers, so that if they graduate from that program, they will hire them because it's their training. Now they don't have it broad. I mean, there must be 15 or more different manufacturers of cars nowadays, or foreign cars and whatever. But at least there's a job for somebody. And that's the pot of golden rainbow at the pot, you know. Got to have that job. In any case, we need to move on to another topic. What was that topic over there? The Sewers Commission.
Concern
Yeah, they're coming out with new bills.
we have an additional tax to our sewer bill, and I believe that we just received this in the mail today, that's saying that stormwater fees will be added to water sewer bill starting July 19th. And apparently they have to take, correct me if I'm wrong, they have to take all of our stormwater and it has to be treated in a different way or in a more enhanced way. I really don't know.
Well, in a lot of cases, they're treated at all.
Yeah, all right. And I guess it's harmful to the environment, and I just, also today I saw on the town website, again, I didn't know about this, somebody told me about this. And again, I think this is where the town doesn't advertise enough as to what residents should know as to what's going on. And you have to be, I think, more proactive. You have to go to the town website and just keep snooping around. And in this one article, which I'm not going to read, there, how many places in this article it says if you want to know this, click here, click here, click here. Instead of having these being as separate entities, they have it as part of one article. So if somebody doesn't read this carefully, there's a lot of information you're going to miss out on.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a chance to get through all these things. But what I saw today was the schedule in terms of which the fee is going to be. And I believe this is going to be, right now it's an annual fee. And for residences that they say that of single-family homes, 91% will qualify for Tier 1, which is having which is a fee of $90 a year. So it's an annual rate. And it says another 8% will qualify for Tier 2, which is $200 a year, and 1% will qualify for Tier 3, which is $325 a year. And that's where it's starting out. And it has to do with your amount of impervious area in square feet. So if you're between 0 and 5,000 square feet impervious area, you'll have an annual rate of $90, and it goes up. And one of my questions is, how long are these rates going to hold?
Well,
I know it hasn't even started, but I'm already
Yeah.
asking that
Yeah.
question because every time we some type of a rate, some type of a fee is imposed on us,
It's
there's
gonna be an
only one
annual
direction
event.
it goes. It always, excuse
listened
me,
in
always
on
goes
the
up.
meeting.
It never stays the same. Always goes up.
I listened on the meeting that was trying to explain this. This is now a state law.
Right.
It's their rules. They had to make up a 5-year budget. And they went backwards from the budget to what everybody's going to donate. And if they don't meet the budget, the next year their rates will be changing because they have to pay the budget. They didn't want to burden the town's regular funds they're going to ask for additional funds, which is basically this fee that's coming about. Now, we normally pay about $1.2 million a year for all the things that are on the list to be done. But now, things to be done is like over $3 million. So the delta is going to be a big shock to all of us, because they're going to maybe take it away from one pocket, which is less property taxes go to these events, and then the other pocket pays the fee, which will cover all the new events too. Now, what I think they should do is go out to the public and propose raising property taxes to match what additional funds that they need, so we get all the people in the same orders in the water, because we can't ignore the process, but we can certainly make a contribution in a way that doesn't look like highway robbery if you vote for it. And I think that we need to vote for it.
And I should also mention that on this Tuesday, January 15th, there's going to be a public hearing. No, it doesn't say a public hearing. It's a public meeting at 7 p.m. in the town hall. Now, I don't know if that means that people are going to be allowed to speak or not.
I think they will, because
It's this public meeting, so
you're going to find a lot of people going, you're giving us this kind of water that we're getting? I mean, there was another break on Holden Street yesterday, up Worcester Sand and Gravel area.
Okay.
These people are going to come to this meeting. They're probably going to be bringing their bills for their washers they've had to replace, hot water heaters issues. You know, some of them may be real, some may be manufactured, but I got to tell you, this is like adding insult to injury for the kind of water that this town's been receiving. I'm not saying it's the whole town.
Right.
It's, you know, so it's a pocket here, pocket there, it changes, it moves around.
Well,
But,
I think I must live at least, 3 or 4 miles from where that happened, and still, and just randomly, every so often, I'll get a day where it's just brown water. But every day, I notice that there is those black particles, the manganese is still there. And they say it is not going to harmful to your body, but I don't trust that. So
Well, they're filling some of it out now with the new water treatment plant. But
we're still getting it though, John.
So it's about
it's
6
still with
months,
us.
6
It's
months
in-
to
it's in
settle
all the
everything.
distribution pipes,
Right.
all the way to your house.
And for some reason, every so often, a batch of it comes through. It's heavier on one day than another. Another day, you think it's almost going to disappear. You'll see just a little bit, and then the next day, it's back and
Comes
forth,
right back.
full force again. Part of the problem, they're saying, what they're trying to fight against is that there's a lot of different chemicals that are being applied to lawns and gardens and so forth. That's contaminating the stormwater, the storm drain water. And I'm saying, wait a minute, if it's that bad, then those chemicals should never be sold for people to put on their lawns.
Yeah.
Well, they're actually worried about what's natural in our soil right now, potassium, I think it is. So they'll be testing for that and hopefully screening that out before they put it in the lake. And it's about time to say goodnight. I thank both of you gentlemen for contributing to your ideas to this new topics.
Thank you, John.
And next month we'll have some new ones. Good night, all.